Good evening. How are we doing tonight? Welcome to the St. Petersburg Museum of History. My name is Rui Frias. I'm the executive director of the museum. Yes, thank you. I can always count on Steve and my mother to clap for that, right? We've been here for 102 years, so we're very proud and happy to be here on this site. And we're very proud and happy to be sharing this experience with you and partnering with Florida Humanities as we have over the years. And we honor this relationship we have with them. So I just want to talk briefly about the museum before we get started. So like I said, we've been here for 102 years sharing and protecting the history of St. Petersburg. And people know about our events and our happy hour with historian events. If you don't know, please visit our website, historystp.org, and check them out, and the exhibits we carry. But a lot of people don't know about what we really do here, or what actually the important people in this museum do here, and that is protecting our history. Upstairs, and people don't even know that we have an upstairs, but there's a second floor to part of the building which has our collections and archives vaults. And I have, man, I'm just so jealous of my staff that gets to work up there because they get to play with the old stuff all day long, right? But we do collect and preserve our cities and the community's history, whether it's photographs or artifacts or family stories or whatever. And it is open to the public. So if you are anywhere near a history geek, like some of us are in this room, by all means, you're more than welcome to go up there and explore. So we're here for a special event tonight. We've been looking forward to this, and thank you so much for braving the Sunshine City weather, all right, to come to this. So let me introduce the first speaker. Dr. Nasheed Madyoun has served as the Executive Director of Florida Humanities since May 2021, where he has brought 2 decades of experience as a historian, museum professional, and educator to the second largest humanities council in the country. Prior to joining Florida Humanities, he was a director of the Southeastern Regional Black Archives at Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, FAMU, in Tallahassee. Go Rattlers. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Madyoun.
All right, thank you for coming. So my name is Nasheed Madyoun, as we shared, Director of Florida Humanities, and for the next 8 hours we will talk about. All right, so Florida Humanities is the statewide affiliate of the National Endowment for the Humanities. We've been around 50 years, and we capture and share the stories of culture, heritage, and anything that helps us understand what it is to be a Floridian, whether that's your first year or 7th generation Floridian. And we enjoy doing so through podcasts, exhibitions, documentaries, panel discussions, which you'll be able to see how we operate. We partner with organizations such as the St. Petersburg Museum of History, and we serve as a grant maker throughout the state of Florida. And when we can, we produce wonderful programs and fill in the gap in storytelling through publications such as Forum Magazine. On your chairs, if you picked up a bag of Florida Humanities goodies, right? We have an award-winning magazine of Florida Humanities, Forum Magazine. It's year after year. It wins 16 to 24 awards. Along with that magazine, go to our website and check out programs from around the state. You'll be amazed about the topics: cuisine, religion, ethics, water, environment. You will be amazed, and you will enjoy and take some day trips and support local institutions. One of the, and I've been told to be swift, so one of the mainstays for us is to serve those small and mid-sized institutions so that we can unearth those marginalized and underrepresented stories. But let's get started. It is my pleasure to introduce the panel for tonight's discussion. Our moderator is Dr. Mindel, Director. He's director of the Florida Studies program at the University of South Florida, whose work focuses on Florida and often includes a historical dimension. He also is a geographer, firmly rooted in the human-environment interaction tradition. He will be joined by Vice Chair of the Tampa Bay Water Board and City of St. Petersburg Councilmember Lisette Hanowitz. This is awesome, right? She is a former assistant state attorney in Pinellas County and assistant United States attorney in the Middle District of Florida. Born in Tampa and raised in Miami, Councilmember Hanowitz is the daughter of Cuban exiles who came to the United States during the freedom fights. That's a story in itself. We should chat, right? Next, we have former Pinellas County Commissioner and former Tampa Bay Water Board member, Steve Seibert. Going off script, Steve is my predecessor. He was executive director of Florida Humanities and chairman of the board, but he served as director from 2016 to 2020, and I can now count him as a good friend. Yes. But he's been a Florida Supreme Court certified mediator for over 20 years. He is a land use and environmental attorney. He also served as the secretary of Florida Department of Community Affairs from 1999 to 2003. And finally, let's see if I can make sure to find, there we go, yes. And finally, attorney Ed Turnchek, who served as a Hillsbury County Commissioner for 8 years and is also former Tampa Bay Water Board member. He is a well-known and long-time advocate of environmental protection and transit solution in the Tampa Bay region. Thank you. Now, I'll turn it over to Chuck Carden, who will briefly tell you about the film we're about to watch. Carden has been with the Tampa Bay Water since 1993, working in finance, operations, and infrastructure. In 2021, he was selected to lead the organization as its general manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Nasheed. We are very happy to be here tonight to celebrate World Water Day. This year's theme is Leveraging Water for Peace. And, you know, it's well documented throughout the history of the world that water can not only create peace, but it also can spark conflicts. And our region has experienced both. So it's quite fitting that this event is featuring a documentary on the creation of Tampa Bay Water. It explores the Tampa Bay Water Wars of the 1990s and how the regional leaders moved from a parochial position to finding regional solutions. That's why we created this documentary, to show everybody what this region can do when our leaders cooperate and collaborate on solutions to shared regional challenges. We are honored tonight to share with you Lightning in a Bottle.
The story of Florida is a story of water.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as our panelists get settled and take their seats, please take this opportunity to stretch your legs and visit the bar, and we'll get started shortly.
Well, welcome back. So let's talk about, process a little bit of what we saw. And by the way, Michelle and Michelle, who had the most to do with putting this together, are here with us today. Thank you. Anyhow, let's start off with some questions. To begin with, the field of humanities encompasses history, philosophy, cultural differences, literature, art, music, and so forth. But what role do you think did the humanities play in reducing the pressure so the political logjam could be broken to create a lasting solution for Tampa Bay's water supply. Steve, you were the former director of Florida Humanities. You want to take a crack at that to begin with, and then maybe we'll hear the thoughts of the others.
Yes, I would. So, thought about this a lot. So the humanities, the purpose of the humanities, and Nasheed will correct me if I'm wrong here, the purpose of the humanities is to understand each other through the things you just mentioned: culture, history, philosophy, religion, poetry, the environment. All of those things we deeply care about, that we give value in our lives, are the work of the humanities. Vitally, vitally important to our being. The only way that Tampa Bay Water was formed was if enough people cared enough about each other and the environment to craft a new approach. You couldn't get there any other way. It wasn't just a structure. There had to be an ethic, a spirit of some sort in my mind, which is what the humanities are all about. So you have to stand in each other's shoes just a bit. I think somebody said that in the film, actually. You have to stand in each other's shoes enough so to make it important to craft a new answer. So I think democracy, which is what Tampa Bay Water is all about, is undergirded by a broad view of what the humanities are and what they mean to all of us. So there you go. That's my answer.
Fair enough, fair enough. Lisette, what do you think?
So I'm going to take a different approach, and I agree with Steve. Humanities, to me, is what's important to us humans, right? Which includes all the things that have been mentioned. But one thing that wasn't mentioned that touches every one of those parts is the law. And that actually played a part in this, because it was the legal battle, as unfortunate as it was, that started to put the pressure to get people in a room to actually have a conversation. So, to me, you have all these people in a room because they couldn't agree at the beginning. They couldn't find the solution that they should have found because they decided to go through litigation. And why do you think most cases settle? Because you can't get the answer through litigation sometimes, and you don't want a judge to make that decision for you. So to me, I think that the litigation played a huge part in it. I think law is part of humanities because it affects every bit of our culture. Everything is touched by the law. And I think that was what kind of started the pressure. Then you found the solutions through the conversation and the policy decisions that those individuals made because of that pressure, and from Tallahassee. And then you got to the answer.
Very good. Ed, what do you think?
My recollection, it was a stunt that got us going. A stunt, the Big Fish Lake stunt. Yeah, and this is the human nature of it all, right? The litigation was obviously created an impasse, and it was frustrating incredibly to us. I was chairman of the county commission and chairman of West Coast, and I was signing the checks to pay the lawyers to sue each other. And he's like this is a very what on earth are we doing here, right? That's a crazy thing. But I think that the people in Hillsborough County and Pasco did not vote for Pinellas County Commissioners or St. Pete Mayor, but I think that this little thing we did out of Big Fish Lake, dramatizing the pain that was there in a very real way, I think had a real human impact on people in Pinellas County and St. Petersburg that resulted in a change of leadership. And Gary and I were talking about, history is biography, or biography is history, and you had a change of leadership that made a big difference. And it wasn't a legal battle or a political battle, it was a very human reaction, but perhaps empathetic. And the other piece was the group of 18. I'm glad to see Commissioner Eggers here. He's on the board, and Pinellas County Commissioner, and board of Tampa Bay Water today. This group of 18 that we spent, I mean, Jenny would complain to me, how come you're late again? He said, well, Steve just won't shut up. That's not true.
And I heard
It was me. It's what Steve said and what someone said, that we started working together, and that empathy was really, really important. And I think that's one of the problems today, is the lack of empathy for other people's positions in a whole range of our society. That Tampa Bay, the experience of here, shows how this collaborative, get thrown in the room, solve it thing, this human interaction, bridging the gaps, the humanity of it all, forged something that has endured the test of time.
Fair enough. And I think that leads into this question. I'm going to skip one and put another one here. Given, because you mentioned this, given the polarized state of our politics today, it seems hard to imagine a regional solution like the one that created Tampa Bay Water could be achieved today. But if we think back to the 1980s and 1990s, this region's people were bitterly divided over water. And yet, the political fever finally broke. Well, let me ask, does the success of the late 1990s and creation of Tampa Bay Water, does that provide any lessons for how we might soften the political divide today?
In my own view, it does, because it all boils down to, in some fundamental ways, to human interaction. I think the internet, and I think we experienced with COVID, where people don't have this human connection. I saw a study that the people that draw connections between people, and then when Newt Gingrich became Speaker of the House, he told everyone, go back to your districts. And members of, and I'm not blaming him for that, but it's just an observation, the number of human connections that existed between Democrats and Republicans frittered away. People used to stay in Washington, they would go to lunch, they would go to dinner, they would know each other. And that's, core of human interactions that got severed. And so the lack of connectivity between people on opposite sides is really problematic, and the exercise that we engaged, being willingly locked in a room, broke down some of those things. And I think in that respect, we need to figure out how to reconnect to each other from all sides to break down the barriers and the polarization.
Right, right. It reminds me of the relationship between Supreme Court justices in the past anyway, who may have thought very differently about issues, but then would go out to dinner in the evening and, set those kinds of things aside and just enjoy each other's company. Lisette, what do you think?
Well, I will tell you, in City Council, I just had our meeting. We have it every Thursday, and they don't lock us in a room. Thankfully, we can actually make decisions without being locked in a room in City Council. But I will tell you that one of the things, there is absolute polarization, no question about it. And our seats are nonpartisan. Even when I was running, people always want to try to find a way to put politics into it. But we are elected as nonpartisan representatives in our city. And we represent everyone. And I always try on whatever issue that I'm dealing with at City Council to focus on the facts, not attack people individually, not attack groups. Focus on what issue is at hand, so that way you can find where there's some common ground. And I will tell you, I think the polarization right now that we see a lot of that in the newspaper and whatever we read, and frankly, whatever is happening with AI, and you're getting the news from whatever source you're getting. But day in and day out, believe it or not, elected officials throughout this country, in municipalities and cities and towns, are working together, making decisions every day jointly, and find common ground. And we have to see that. There is a lot of positive going on out there every day. And people don't see that. What they like to see is the divisive issues. And that's what makes a newspaper a lot of times. And I see that when I'm on city council, is what makes a newspaper is what's divisive, but not the good stuff sometimes that happens in chambers. So I do think that finding the humanity in people and talking to each other and understanding each other and focusing on the facts, I think you get things accomplished.
Well, I'm going to take a little different view on this. I think it's only a model if people want it to be a model. It's only a model if people are willing to put aside their tribal. It's only a model if people are willing to put aside their tribal, stuff. Ed and I talked about this when we met when we did the first screening of the film. And let me say this right now. That's Michelle Robinson. And that is Michelle, this is her work. This is her, with an enormous support from the entire Tampa Bay Water team. But she did all the interviews, oh my God. Ed and I talked about this. I was at Pinellas, back then Republican elected official. Ed was a Democrat and either the chair or the former chair of the Sierra Club. We worked together for 3 very intense and often difficult years. And I asked him the other day, I said, do you remember us ever talking about national politics? Did that ever come into our conversation during our time together? And he said, I don't think so. And I didn't either. And so if you can create a time where you're not so incredibly polarized, where every damn thing you do as an elected official is put into a category, into a tribal category, if you can not have that happen, then this is a great model. And I would hope that people would see this and say, hey, just a bunch of normal people actually figured this stuff out and did it. We can do that. We can do that in transportation. We can do that in affordable housing. We can do that. That's what I would hope to be the case, but I don't carry a lot of hope for it, to be honest, given the current tenor.
March Madness is going on. Can't we all just have fun, right?
Can I just add to that?
Sure.
It goes back to the point you were making. It's almost the strategy of MAD, mutual assured destruction, right? The parties and people keep on, they are always fighting about the next election, trying to get ascendancy, right? And that becomes the end game. Instead of solving the problem, is the end game's not let's fix the problems. Not always true, but it's always let's take a position to put us in the best position so we can gain power, and it's a constant. That's the battle. Whereas we had this dilemma that water, you're going to run out of water. It's not, there's no way that you had to solve that problem. And I want to give David Fisher credit because at the role of vision, right?
Yeah.
David said something very poignant. He said, we should have a very simple goal. When you turn the water tap on, it comes out, there's no headline, and the environment's not damaged. Yeah. How are we going to get there? That was win or lose for the other side. It's let's go get this thing done. Then how do you do that?
And I just want to add something to what
Sure.
he said, sorry. So I talked about politics. When you mentioned politics, the first thing I thought about is being as a council member of the city of St. Pete, because that's where we get the most politics. But when we're talking about water, and I'm in Tampa Bay Water, it's not as evident there because everyone there is there for water, and they care about regionalism. And we have a great, and Dave Eggers is here. I will tell you, he sits right beside me on the board, on the dais, and it's collegial. It's one of my favorite boards. I mean, trust me,
And you wouldn't have said that 20-some
I would
years
have
ago.
never, right, and the material, it's a lot of dense material, don't get me wrong, but it's collegial because people actually care about what they're doing and they understand the importance of it, and the people that are at the table that choose to be there from every county and the cities that are involved. It's a heavy lift to be on Tampa Bay Water Board, and I think and that's why you get a good group of people because they really do care about it.
When I first went on the Tampa Bay Water Board, my last name's Taranchuk, right? And Chuck Rainey was the representative. Steve knows this story. Chuck would say, well, Commissioner, a tourniquet over there, because Hillsborough County was trying to cut off the water supply. I thought that was very funny and laughed, and that just got Chuck more pissed off than I was laughing at his humor.
While we're talking about softening the other side, or softening creating a place where people can work, I think it's really important to have an element of objective science. The value of facts in a time when people don't spend a lot of time with facts. And there's a whole bunch of engineering that's going on here in Tampa Bay Water in answering this whole problem. So I'm going to tell a quick story because this is all about stories, and we all have them, and maybe that's the best way to talk about this. But one of the most heroic figures in this conversation, Sonny mentioned it, is St. Petersburg's own Roy Harrell. And I don't know if anybody in the crowd remembers Roy Harrell. Thank you. I get emotional. One of the, a big dog, a big man physically, but with enormous presence, in intellect, in drive. And early in my time as a Pinellas County Commissioner, I was echoing the party line about alternative water supplies. And I remember I came down to St. Petersburg and gave a speech at some club. And Roy, I'd never met him before, and he came up to me afterwards and he said, you know, you seem like a nice young man, but you know you're wrong. And I said, am not, you know, or some brilliant response like that. And Roy said, well, listen, and the question on the floor was whether a desal plant, which we ultimately built, would ever be permitted. Would it ever be permitted? And the answer, if you were a Pinellas County Commissioner, was no, it would not be permitted because it produces heavy salinated water that would have to go into some receiving water body like Tampa Bay or the Anclote River, which is what we were talking about by then, and that you couldn't do it, that it would never be allowed. And that made sense to me, but Roy said, well, you're wrong on that. And he said, so I'm going to challenge you. He said, let's fly up to Tallahassee and let's talk to the DEP permitter. And I said, okay. And we got on separate planes. We wouldn't fly on the same plane. We got up to DEP, and we were talking to the head permitter, and I said, will a desal plant ever be permitted on the, at that point, Anclote River? And he looked at me and he said, well, I've looked at some of the initial studies on this, and he said, I actually think it could be. And he said, but I will tell you, it will be permitted long before any new well field will be permitted. And he said something that was directly opposite to everything I had been saying and that I knew to be the truth. And there was a chink in the armor of our position in Pinellas County from that. I heard something I could not unhear, you know, and that was a change. And I want to give credit to Roy Harrell, who had the emotional intelligence to say to me, listen, let's go up and talk about this with the people that are going to make a decision to see if this answer, partial answer, a desal plant would actually be permitted. So the importance of science.
He deserves credit for calling out the facts. You deserve credit for accepting the facts.
I don't, yeah, I guess. But I'll give it to Roy. And he was so much bigger than me, he was going to, make it happen anyway.
Well, the governance restructuring that created Tampa Bay Water called for compromise and enormous investment in infrastructure. We saw some of that in the film. That was nicely done. It solved an intractable problem. Wonderful. But it also paved the way for incredible continued population and economic growth, which is causing its own set of issues. How might past examples, given your experience, help us effectively wrestle with these current challenges? Like transportation, for example. It's getting harder and harder to move around. And some of this is due in no small part to the fact that we solved the water problem. And now we have another problem. But how might past examples help us effectively wrestle with current challenges? It doesn't have to be just transportation, it could be lots of others as well.
Well, I was going to defer to the past executive director of the Humanities Council on this one. Oh, gosh. I
You're
think
still exhausted from the 90s?
No, I think that's got layers, right? We are. Winston Churchill once said about Americans, we will always do the right thing after we try everything else. And I think that's probably a lot of truth to that. As an environmentalist, we strongly believe in growth management. Steve was DCA secretary. He strongly believes in growth management. We have surrendered to we have gutted our growth management laws, and concurrency laws and a lot of other things that are terribly troublesome. I don't know when that's going to right itself. From my own perspective, but at the time we were doing this within the context of a regulatory scheme where, great, we're going to have sustainable water supplies that don't harm the environment. Your question, I don't know how to grapple with that. We have done our part, and I think it's kind of like putting solar panels on your rooftop. You do what you can, and I think we did what we can, and we have to deal with the context of everything else. If we hadn't done it, we'd be in such terrible shape.
Right.
And what I said in that film, I say now, you can travel around the state. No one has done what we have done, and the great thing is we have two board members here that are here watching us, knows this history, and creating this culture of continuation to create what we've done and keep it going. And some elected officials in Tampa a couple years try to unwind it. That would be a really bad thing. But I'm kind of stuttering around your question because it's so complicated.
It is.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it's a very difficult question. I mean, I will tell you, I'm always asked the question of, like, how can we have so many people moving to St. Petersburg? The water's going to run out. The reality is, believe it or not, that the city of St. Petersburg is not using that much water than it was. I mean, it was 1990 something or what. I mean, it's unbelievable. And why? Because we have a reclaimed water system. And if you look at the charts of our water use, it's unreal. And you think we have more people and we're using water. We're actually using less water. And even things like a toilet. I mean, back in the day, you'd have toilets that had, I don't know what, 8 gallons of water? I mean, I bought a house.
Drinking water.
Drinking water in a toilet. And by the way, I did use the rebate program once. That's Tampa Bay Water rebate program if you have an old toilet and you get a new toilet. And if you think about how people thought about water and the lack of conservation, there are lots of things. I understand there's a lot of growth, but there are lots of innovations lately that actually are very environmentally friendly, that have helped our region tremendously. And I think we forget that. I think what people don't understand is you don't work in a silo. You don't. There are laws. People come up with ideas like, I want to do this. It's like, you can't do that. There's a constitution, there's this and that, and there's this idea, there's private property rights, there's land development regulations. And so what you try to do is work with what you have, and I think Tampa Bay Water is doing what it can to make sure that we are providing water, safe drinking water for the region, and we're planning for the future to continue to do that. And we also make sure that our environment is healthy and make sure that people conserve water and educate people on that. And that's what our mission is. And there's only so much you can do, but we're trying our best.
Right.
I think that's the right answer. I think we have to be mindful for unintended consequences of any major public work that you do. And, you know, I don't think we thought a lot about, somebody said it in the film, a moratorium is not a good thing. I'm sorry, it's just not a good thing. And it would cripple, it would cripple the economy of a region, and that's just damned important, and that was not a good idea. But if you can keep the economy going and you can solve a major environmental problem, that's really a win on all sides, and I think that was sort of the point. Our friend Cynthia Barnett, who writes about water a great deal, once was banging on me about the cost of desal and the energy cost of desal, and were we trading energy, an environmental problem in energy, with an environmental problem in water supply. And I said, in 1995, 6, and 7, and 8, we weren't really talking about energy as that wasn't our primary issue. Water supply was. And so you, as Ed just said, you can't solve everything, and you do what you can. And then you leave it to Chuck to figure out everything else for the next 25 years.
No, very good. We don't have that much time, but we do have time for questions from y'all. So if any of you have questions, identify yourself, and we'll bring a microphone to you. You don't even have to leave your seat so that you can ask a question of panelists. What do you think?
So if Chuck Rainey's granddaughter were here tonight, how would you describe Chuck Rainey in this process and historical figure?
Chuck and I had a special relationship. Really, Chuck was the point person for Pinellas County on a new arena for the Lightning, and the point person on water. And I was the point person in Hillsborough County for a new arena for the Lightning, and the point person on water. Ironically, we're both from the Cleveland area. When Chuck passed away, I was the only Hillsborough County official that went to his funeral. I respected Chuck for his tenacity. He utterly was committed to the economic prosperity of Pinellas County and serving the citizens of it. He did it in his own kind of old-style way. But, the fact when Chuck would call me Commissioner Tourniquet, I just thought it was very funny. So I don't know the answer to that. But to this day, hey, Steve, you have the same kind of fond respect for Chuck, I think, that I do. And It's just a different era. But there's no question Chuck was a stumbling block, because I think he was, he saw what we are doing as a threat. And I think Steve and other Pinellas County officials saw it as an opportunity, because going it alone would have been catastrophic. How do you get new drinking water supplies when they're all in other counties? We saw it as a great deal because Pinellas County and St. Petersburg were going to help fund our growth. So it was a massive trade-off. You look at all the conflicts around the world and you like, you know, history is biography, right? Why aren't people solving these disputes? We saw that solving the dispute was the right way to solve and further all of our mutual interests.
I have to make a comment on Chuck, because I served with him. For those that don't know, Chuck Rainey was Pinellas County Commissioner for 32 years. And I reminded him regularly that I was attending Largo Junior High School when he was first elected, which really pissed him off. But he was, I loved him dearly, and he was our water spokesperson for decades. And he defended Pinellas' water rights with a passion and a knowledge that is hard to beat. I will give you one quick insight onto this. We were in a meeting at one point, and we were still very much in litigation, and he looked at me and he said, "Commissioner, you either need to settle or you need to litigate, but you can't do both." And there was a moment I was doing both at the time. And of course he wanted me to litigate, but he was exactly right. He was exactly right. There was a moment of clarity and wisdom from him that you couldn't do both. And that moved me into the strong side.
We did this visioning session where we had to go put sticky things up on different things, and it was just this feel-good, touchy thing, and I was just chuckling because I knew this was pure torture for Chuck. But it was such a healthy, fun adversarial relationship that we could gig each other like that. But he hated that kind of thing, you know. He was very, very tough guy, and may he rest in peace. He's done a lot of great stuff for Pinellas County, create a lot of wealth, create a lot of jobs for people. But to paraphrase Big Dog, Chuck, you were just wrong, buddy.
How about another question?
How do the economics work? So earlier you mentioned bonds, right? That's capital investment. But how does is the rest of the funding for the authority, is it basically strictly, I'll call it user fees, in other words, I pay a water bill, or does it also include allocations from individual city, county governments?
Well, the key, and this is relevant to things that current board members might deal with. You heard it up here. Exclusivity was everything. Because I went with Jerry Maxwell and our finance team to Wall Street to convince the rating agencies that this was a good deal. We got an A- rating for something that had not produced a thimble of water. And the key to it was we were a growing region, and the strength of being able to finance it was the interlocal agreement that we had done. And I will tell you this about all 18 people. It's not like the legislature where they get together and they pass a bill and they don't know what's in it. We got into the nuances and arguing over paragraphs and whatever. If there was anything that we did not do exactly well enough was dealing with the reclaimed water issue, but that is, to the extent there's any water that is meant to be potable, it's got to go through the authority, because that's the predicate on which the financial markets would extend us funds to build our infrastructure. And Chuck, what's the rate per 1,000
So
gallons?
Swift Mud provided some of the funding,
Oh, sure, but
but then you had to borrow the rest.
well, I mean, $300 million compared to $2 billion, and we keep investing. So the strength of the financing mechanism really is the interlocal agreement. It's fees, yeah. There's a common fee that's charged to all the users. Yes, sorry. You got a long answer to that one, huh?
Actually, I have a comment, not a question, as pertains to the low-flow toilets. I had 3 children, and they thought I was crazy, but I put a tablet in each of the bathrooms and had each one of them put a hash mark every time they flushed the toilet. And I followed it for a couple of weeks, and I was shocked at the amount of fresh water that was going down the toilet. And we got the low-flow toilets with the rebate program. And just the toilets alone saved me almost 4,000 gallons a month.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Wow. I think we've got about 5 more minutes before they kick us out. So there is time for a couple of questions. Yeah.
So to me, there's the example of the commons. And so what is it, as far as maybe the filmmaker answers this question, but here we are in the Tampa region, but does the Kennedy School of Government have this film? Does our other communities knowing about this example? The way we've wrestled with how to work and using this process, how is it being shared? And again, commending to the group and the 199 legislators, but again, from history, it's the sharing of the commons, and water happened to be one of them. And so it's just larger than us. It's much larger than us.
Thank you. Tampa Bay Water can help me answer this question, but this was really one of our big promotional opportunities. We have been trying to work with, I believe it's the Florida Channel, Michelle, is that correct? The Florida Channel, to provide the film to them. We have provided it to WEDU, but I'm not sure that they're interested in running it. But in addition to that, Tampa Bay Water's been promoting it on social media. In the past couple of weeks, they've been running like 1 to 3 minute vignettes and providing the link to the film to try to push it out there. And they have a very large distribution list that has been provided. I mean, it's everyone from people that have sat on technical ad hoc committees with us, you know, to residents, to the local government. So we're really trying to push it out to anyone who's interested, and it's posted on Tampa Bay Water's website at tampabaywater.org/25.
So there's a link to it right on the website.
Exactly.
I will tell you that I am familiar with an organization, Florida Humanities, that is interested, you may know, is interested in continuing to partner and share this story. And if the audience, and you can look at your neighbors and see how many people participate, if you continue to share that you enjoyed this type of program on social media, that gives us the type of backup data to continue this type of programming. I will tell the executive director of Florida Humanities to pay attention.
There's a question of.
One, two, three.
Okay, in short, do you have a vision of water's future here in Tampa Bay?
I mean, we work every day to make sure that we continue to have projects, to make sure that we are fulfilling the water needs of, right now, Hillsborough County is growing, South Hillsborough County. It's unbelievable, the growth over there, and a lot of our projects are over there. You have a lot of growth happening in Pasco County. So one of the interesting things, and I remember seeing this picture, I don't know who showed it to me, but you see the picture of when Tampa Bay Water started and the system itself and what the system is now. And to see from where it started to now is unbelievable. And those are huge projects. And I just foresee that continuing. And also, looking to see how we find different sources of water. We have the desalination plant and what projects we can do and be as diverse as possible and be on the cutting edge and continue to do what they did at the beginning, right? Come up with something new and innovative and stay ahead, because we have a fantastic region. Water defines us. It really defines us. I mean, to think that humans, you can't live, 3 days? 3 days. You can go without food for much longer. Water is everything, and people need to understand where their water comes from. It comes from us, and it doesn't come from just under the ground. I talk to people, they have no idea. It goes through lots of pipes, and it comes from up north. And we're going to continue to do what we have to do to make sure that it's safe, and also that the public knows there are ways to conserve water. So that way we can make sure that we have the water that we need.
I just wanted to make a comment. I got started with interest in this whole thing first because I took a workshop with them. It was a week-long stay at camp kind of workshop. And so I have learned about Swift Mud and Tampa Bay Water, and I have used that information in my classroom. And coincidentally, this week, I've been really pushing it hard. I'm trying to make a difference, and I do appreciate all of you, all the work you guys have done.
My name's Dave Eggers, and I am currently a Tampa Bay Water board member. Thank you for your comment, because it is emotional, and I want to thank you leaders for your perseverance, your vision, and also the loyalty that you built in this throughout this process. Because I can tell you, as a member 20 years later, you feel it. Don't take anything for granted. We've seen issues come up over the last 5 or 6 years, and I hear from past members telling me their opinions on what I need to do to make sure that we keep this Tampa Bay Water thing going. But no, it's really an important piece to the continuity of what you all started, so thank you for that. Just to give you some reassurance, we are working to merge the 3-county MPOs, which is about transportation, which is infrastructure, and transit. So there is that dialogue that's ongoing, and we're already putting together an interlocal agreement, and it's probably got 2 to 3 years of baking still to go. I was saying something today. I think we need to take this clip that we just saw, this movie, this production, and show it to that group so they can see what, to your point, the lady that mentioned, how do we use this going forward? I think it's just a great tool to use for others to think about what regionalism, now we all have our issues at home, of course, but universities don't care about county lines and businesses don't care about county lines. We all tend to care about county lines. But those regional issues on transportation, transit, water, economic development, those are so critical, and you all just laid a groundwork for success in those areas. So I want to thank you both for that, and my colleague here for her leadership, and she'll be the chair in another year. So anyway, thank you.
And thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you to our panelists, much obliged, and to Florida Humanities for putting this all together. Much obliged. Thank you all.